welcome to the Strengthen Leadership Podcast. My name is Chris Jones. I'm the pastor of Hope Community Church, and we are here today to help you strengthen your leadership. And we're going to dive into something that I think impacts a lot of churches, impacts a lot of businesses, impacts a lot of individuals, and that's the 20-80 rule. And you've heard this said before, 20% of the people do 80% of the work. So we're going to dive into this. We're actually going to do two episodes of this. We're going to talk about the 20-80, and then we're going to talk about flipping the script to 80-20. And it might not be exactly how you think that we're going to do it. So let's dive into the 20-80 rule. You've heard the saying 20% of the people do 80% of the work. And when you start saying stuff like that, people go, oh, we're so tired. We're just worn out. You know, it's one core group doing everything. And it just starts bringing morale down. You can't sustain that for a super long period of time. So you hear complaints with the 20-80. You hear conversations about workload being too much, energy levels being down, lack of margins. I hear this all the time where it says, I'm already doing X, Y, and Z, and I don't have time to build up other people, or we hear that. And so as leaders, we have to be extremely aware in our organizations if the 20-80 model is being used. It might not be being used across the board, but you have to listen into departments and listen into different areas of your organization or church to find out if that's the case. And the way to do that is to listen. To listen and hear what people are saying. If they don't have time to invest in people, if they don't have the energy, if all they talk about is, oh, we have all these things to do, they may be in a 20-80 circumstance. And this is the problem with the 20-80 circumstance. It will always have less participation because there's no bandwidth to create more participation. The people that are in it are just stuck doing it. It will always lack energy because the people that are in it are stuck doing it, and they're typically overwhelmed. And it will always lack significant results. When I say lack significant results, I mean, there's just only so much you can do by yourself. There's just only so much a few people can do. There's only so much 20% of the people can do. And that's, it becomes limited. And so what we find is that we got to be aware of personality types, and here we talk a lot about Working Genius with Patrick Lencioni. We talk about personality tests and all those things. We kind of wrap them together to find out who naturally can flip the script on that 20-80. So here's what you'll find out. Some people gravitate towards doing. Some people gravitate towards investing in others. That's not good or bad. It's just what it is. And so as a leader, you have to be able to disseminate people's gift sets and abilities. And if you have an organization where you continually put people that gravitate towards doing in leadership positions where their job is to grow the team or encourage others, it might always be a tension. It might always be a problem. You may always struggle to get not 20-80, but 30-70, 40-60. It'll be really difficult to flip the script to 80-20 because people's knee-jerk, their natural bent is towards just put their head down and do the work. And that will always reduce the size of the team. It will always reduce the size of the opportunity because we can only do so much. There's only so much bandwidth each of us have. And if your goal is to grow an organization, to grow a church, to impact a community, to spread the gospel, then we have to have people in leadership positions that can flip that script. And so I start listening for the way people talk. Where do they find their joy? Where do they find the most meaning? Where do they find the most fulfillment? And if it's in just physically putting their head down doing the work, then either we have to have a conversation to see if they increase their capacity about thinking about teams, or we may have to move the position and say, hey, listen, this is always going to be a frustration. So the first step in this is really dialing in and understanding who's on your team and what their gift sets are. And we need people to do work, and we need people to lead teams, and we need everything in between. And so giant amounts of frustration comes when you have the wrong people in the wrong places. And so listen to your team, listen to the people and how they talk about things and what their frustrations are. And you will begin to see, if there's an 80 or 20-80 mentality in your organization, why people are frustrated because they're doing all the work. So we want to move out of that 20-80 scenario. I believe it's biblical. I believe it's the way we should operate as churches and organizations. And I'll leave you with this one last thought, and then we'll cover the switch in our next episode. One last thought. When the apostles were figuring out how to run the first church, they were celebrating the Lord's Supper. They were eating together, and some people came to Peter and said, "Hey, there's some people aren't getting fed. Some people aren't getting fed." And in a 20-80 circumstance, Peter would have responded like this: "I can't do anymore. I don't know. Like, I'm just so frustrated with this whole thing. Like, I am working myself to the bone, and I don't know what you expect from me. I don't know what you expect. I have no more bandwidth to do this." But Peter had flipped the script already. And Peter looked at him and said, "Hey, listen, we can find people to do this. I don't have to, like, it wouldn't be a good idea if I did it, because Jesus himself has given me these other responsibilities. And so I'm going to lean into the responsibilities that I have. And there are people here that can make sure widows are being fed." And what you see early on in the book of Acts is the church flipped the script from 20-80 to 80-20. We're going to build a team to make sure everybody gets fed. You see Paul doing it over and over and over again, every place that he goes to. And so for your organization, your business, or your church to do significant work, I mean, reach a lot of people, we got to flip that script from 20-80 to 80-20. We'll talk about the other side of that in our next episode.